I appreciate you joining me again. Hope you're doing well today. We're going to be thinking about giving. Today's hymn is a hymn called There Is a Sea. If you've never heard this hymn, an older hymn, not one that I'm real familiar with. We're going to look at all three verses because it's a story, and as hopefully as we go through it, you'll see the story. And because it's speaking about Sea of Galilee and then the Dead Sea. And so just follow along with the words and hopefully you'll see the message.
There is a sea which day by day receives a rippling rills and streams that spring from wells of God or fall from cedar hills. But what it thus receives it with glad unsparing hand. A stream or one with deeper tide flows on to lower land. There is a sea which day by day receives a fuller tide, but all its store it keeps nor gives to shore nor sea beside. Its Jordan stream, mountain to bright, thy Savior's molten land. Its dreadful name doth there proclaim. That sea is waste and dead. What shall it be for you and me, who God's good gifts obtain? Shall we accept for self alone, or take to give again? For he who once was rich indeed, laid all his glory down, that by his grace our ransom grace should share his wealth and crown.
For me, I'm missing that last page there. So hopefully that didn't detract too much from the lesson of the hymn. When we think about the Dead Sea, we think about all it does is it just takes. It does not give. So, of course, the first verse, speaking of the Sea of Galilee, that gives and gives happily. Let's look at our passage now. This is Deuteronomy 26, verse 1. And it shall be when you come into the land which the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, and you possess it and dwell in it, that you shall take some of the first fruit of all the produce of the ground which you shall bring from your land that the Lord your God is giving you, and put it in a basket, and go to the place where the Lord your God chooses to make his name abide. And you shall go to the one who is priest in those days, and say to him, I declare today to the Lord your God that I have come to the country which the Lord swore to our fathers to give us. Then the priest shall take the basket out of your hand and set it down before the altar of the Lord your God. And you shall answer and say before the Lord your God, my father was a Syrian, about to perish, and he went down to Egypt and dwelt there, few in number, and there he became a nation, great, mighty, and populous. But the Egyptians mistreated us, afflicted us, and laid hard bondage on us. Then we cried out to the Lord God of our fathers, and the Lord heard our voice and looked on our affliction, and our labor and our oppression. So the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, with great terror, and with signs and wonders. He has brought us to this place, and has given us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now, behold, I have brought the firstfruits of the land, which you, O Lord, have given me. Then you shall set it before the Lord your God, and worship before the Lord your God. So you shall rejoice in every good thing which the Lord your God has given to you and your house, you and the Levite and the stranger who is among you. When you have finished laying aside all the tithe of your increase in the 3rd year, year of tithing, and have given it to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, so that they may eat within your gates and be filled, then you shall say before the Lord your God, I have removed the holy tithe from my house, and also have given them to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, according to all your commandments which you have commanded me. I have not transgressed your commandments, nor have I forgotten them. Longer reading, go along with all 3 verses of our hymn, but now let's think about giving. And we think about our passage, and of course what the Lord wants us to be is, the Lord wants us to be givers, and not just takers. There's a verse in Jude that paints a picture of someone who just takes, that they're like clouds without rain and never give back. And there is a time to receive, and of course the Lord blesses us abundantly and we receive those blessings. But then we give back, and the Lord wanted Israel to be givers. Along with givers, he also wanted them to be rememberers. That part about when they said, let me put it back up there, because Jacob is called a Syrian. I noticed that. Let's see. My father was a Syrian, about to perish, and he went down to Egypt and dwelt there, few in number. The Egyptians mistreated us, afflicted us. We cried out to the Lord delivered us. And they were commanded to remember. And I think when we give, and I suppose it's like chicken or the egg, which comes first? Are we supposed to give and remember, or do we remember and therefore we give? Probably a little bit of both. And so the Lord wanted them to be rememberers. Don't forget. And that's also one of the reasons that they were supposed to remember the Sabbath. It was supposed to, there's two accounts of the 10 Commandments. And when it comes to the Sabbath, one of the accounts was to take them back to the garden. And the other account reminded them that they were not slaves in Egypt. They needed to remember. They needed to remember Egypt. They needed to remember that they had been in bondage, and they needed to remember that the Lord had delivered them with an outstretched hand. And they needed to do these things along with caring. And that is the passage that we read where it talks about the Levite, and it talks about the widow, talks about the poor there at the end, the stranger and the fatherless, widow, the orphans. James speaks about pure and undefiled religion. I think about that idea. Keep oneself unspotted from the world. And they were to bring the first fruits once they had the crops coming in. And they were to say, I have removed the holy tithe from my house. And they have offered it. They have given it. Givers, rememberers, carers. They needed to be like the Sea of Galilee, not like the Dead Sea that just takes. Had to look it up just to make sure. No fish. There's no fish in the Dead Sea. I just did a quick Google search. And it said, yeah, there's no aquatic life there. There's a little fungus and bacteria, but that's about it. And that's what our lives are like. We're not giving back. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our Daily Praise.